Hey guys, this is Mac again on behalf of Untitled Tactical. Today I'm going to go over my handgun setup for 3-gun competition. So we've gone over our rifle. Let's talk about handgun. Now handgun setup for competition is something that you may use in other types of competition besides 3-gun. So USPSA, IDPA, IPSC, there are many different classifications and types of competitions. So your handgun that you choose may be tailored by what classification you want to shoot in. Fortunately for me, in the 3-gun competitions that I shoot in, I have less stipulations on what I can shoot. So basically, I'm able to take the stock pistol that I want to shoot and pretty much improve it almost any way I want to. So let's talk about this Glock 34 that I use in competition. This started out life as a pretty standard Generation 3 Glock 34. And I've done a series of videos on my primary channel where I talk about these different pieces and aftermarket improvements that I've done to this handgun. So let's just briefly go over them real quick. This is a Glock 34. As you know, Glock 34s have a 5 1/4 inch slide. They also have an opening in the top which lightens up the slide here. I've added some Dave Savigny Warren Tactical sights here to the top. These are blacked out. There's no dot on the front, and the front side is serrated, and this helps me with quick target acquisition because I feel like sometimes the dots distract me. Next, I've added a beaver tail grip to allow me to get my hand higher up on the axis of the handgun for more accurate follow-up shots. I've also added some Talon rubberized grips here, which really help me get a good grip on this handgun. And I've added a flared out mag well to help me reload magazines quicker, because you're going to save a lot of time doing reloads throughout competition. So you want to get that magazine in there with the least amount of effort and in the least amount of time possible, and this flared mag well helps me do that. This has the standard Glock Trigger in it. This came with a 3.5 pull connector from Glock. It's called the Glock minus connector. So I didn't even have to replace that. Typically I will install a 3.5 pound connector in a Glock handgun, but this one came like this. I did the 25-cent trigger job on this and polished all the crucial areas in the trigger mechanism, and I got a really nice trigger pull with that. Next, I installed a 14-pound recoil spring and a stainless steel guide rod, which helps with quicker follow-up shots and less muzzle flip. After that, I added a light striker spring and a lightened striker from Lightning Strike, which goes perfectly with the lowered recoil spring. You can have some reliability issues if you improperly install a recoil spring which is too light. So the Lightning Strike striker actually perfectly balances that out, and this gun has given me zero problems since I've installed these race gun parts in this. And this is a very accurate handgun and I love it. So the Glock 34 is high on my list of competition handguns. Others you may want to think about are the Springfield XD 5.25 or the Smith & Wesson Pro Series. In my opinion, those three lines of handguns are what you're going to see almost 100% of competition shooters, you know, other than 1911s. The 2011s are widespread in competition, but for striker-fired pistols and newer polymer pistols, the Springfield XD, the Smith & Wesson M&P Pro, and the Glock 34 are going to dominate competitions. Now let's talk about what we got going along with this Glock 34. Here's our magazines. These are Glock 17 round magazines. These fit in Glock 17s and also the 34. What you may notice different about this one is I've added 6-round magazine extension from Arredondo, and I have these on all 3 of the magazines that I carry in competition. So I don't load them up completely +6. Let's see, this starts out as a 17-round magazine, so +6. Potentially you could load 23, but I've never been able to get 23 in these. So I usually load these to 22, and they feed reliably, and I've never had any trouble from these, and they're great. They allow me to get through a stage a little bit quicker and maybe save one reload. As far as ammunition, I usually use standard 9mm 115 grain, what you'd consider range ammunition or training ammunition. This is a pretty good quality ammunition from American Eagle, made by Federal. I've used this several times in competition, but I also use Winchester white box or whatever I can find. Now here's my competition belt. This is a double alpha, and I just want to go over it briefly as part of this video. First off, this is a two-piece belt system. It has Velcro on the inside, so there's an inner belt. So there's an inner belt and there's an outer belt. And these Velcro together, and they're held in place by this pretty neat little Velcro wrap that has the double alpha logo on it. You really need one of these to shoot in competition. You really do. That way you can get all of these carriers and caddies that you need on this belt. This is my holster for my Glock 34. This is made by Blade Tech. It's a Revolution series of holster, and it's made specifically for the Glock 34, so this is why I like it. It's got a very positive click when you put it in there, and there's perfect retention. There's no buttons that I have to hit to draw, and it's very easy to draw out. This is a great holster from Blade Tech. Here you see my shotgun shell caddies on the front. These are made by TACCOM, and I've just switched to these recently. I was using 4-round caddies from California Competition Works, and those work great, by the way, but I'm transitioning over to the Load 2 system, which is a much faster way of reloading your shotgun. So these are the caddies that I'm using now for my shotgun shells, and these are made by TACCOM. They're called the 4-Up because there's 4 shells on each caddy. You can also get them in 6 or 2, whatever you want. And there's a couple of other great companies that make these, but I particularly wanted these from TACCOM. This is my handgun magazine holster, and this is just a real cheap caddy that I've had actually for several years. I think it's made by Uncle Mike's, and it has 2, and it's never really caused me any problems, and it's never failed me, so I really don't see a reason to try and change it at this point. I could probably get single magazine caddies at some point, but you know, this one works fine, so why mess with something that works, and why spend money you don't need to? So this works, and I keep 2 magazines on my belt in case I need to do any reloads. And usually what I'll do at the beginning of the stage, if possible, is I'll take this back magazine and use it as a slave magazine, and I'll reload, or I'll load my chamber from this magazine and then pop a fresh magazine into the gun so that I'm fully loaded plus 1. So that's my handgun setup for competition using my Glock 34. I'm really happy with this setup right now. It's serving me well. I shoot this gun really well. It's very accurate, and it's very fast. It's really made me a better shooter. Hopefully this helps you think about your handgun setup and your belt setup actually. Your belt setup is actually a really crucial part to any competitive shooting. I think it's overlooked a lot of times. People focus on the guns, but I think you need to also focus on your belt setup, because being able to do reloads and manipulations in an efficient manner is really important when you're shooting. So once again, this is Mac. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.